Thank you. Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. I want to start by saying a word in favor of two pieces of legislation before us. S2581, which Senator Risch was talking about just a second ago. This is the Secure Rural Schools Reauthorization Act. Hugely significant for my state. The Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri has 1.5 million acres that runs across 29 counties in the state of Missouri. I know that my western colleagues have a lot of federal land in their state. You know, even in southern Missouri, though, our counties there, 50% of the land in many of the counties in southern Missouri is federal land. And in 2022, rural areas in Missouri received $2.8 million from the Secure Rural Schools funding. So we certainly want to see that be reauthorized, and I'm very supportive of that measure today. I assume, Ms. Emanuel, that you are as well. You support the Secure Rural Schools Reauthorization Act.
Extending the authorization of secure rural schools will undoubtedly bring much-needed resources to those counties.
Just give me a sense of what else the department is doing to support counties that have significant amounts of federal land.
Well, our Reimagine Recreation work is taking a look at gateway communities and the recreation economy and how much that actually contributes to local communities. I think that that's probably one of our most promising efforts.
Very good. I also want to say a word in favor of Senator Barrasso's Close the Gap Act. This is on rural broadband. This is vital legislation from my point of view intended to speed permitting for broadband infrastructure that is, again, built within federal lands. Extremely important to my state. We are a majority rural state in the state of Missouri, and so often folks in rural areas are left behind here. And, you know, it's become a commonplace. Students have to go to the local McDonald's or Wendy's in order to be able to get internet access, do their homework. That should not be the case, particularly there shouldn't be this disparity between folks who live in urban areas and folks who live in rural areas. So I'm very supportive of what Senator Barrasso's legislation is doing, and I would assume, Ms. Emanuel, that you would support these efforts and that the department is going to do everything it can to speed up approval of rural broadband. Is that a fair thing to say?
We've made a lot of strides to streamline and gain efficiencies in that issue, and I think anything we can do that helps us be more efficient and effective is going to be supported.
Good, very good. Finally, for me, Ms. Culver, if I could just ask you, according to the numbers that I have, Department of the Interior issued only 120 new oil and gas leases in fiscal year 2022. That's compared to over 1,800 leases in fiscal year 2019. Just to put that in terms of acreage, in 2022, the amount of new acres leased was 75,000. That compares to 2.25 million new acres leased in fiscal year 2019. So huge disparities. But am I right in thinking that you oppose any new oil and gas leases on federal land?
Thanks for the opportunity to respond to that question. We are currently conducting regular lease sales and complying with the Inflation Reduction Act on that topic.
But you personally have criticized even these, from my point of view, pretty paltry new oil and gas leases. Is that right?
The BLM is continuing to conduct quarterly lease sales and issue new oil and gas leases.
Well, I'm just looking at an email that was obtained from a FOIA request of yours that's been published in the press, I think yesterday, in which a congressman from Arizona says there ought to be no new oil and gas leases. And you respond to that and say that's an excellent response.
I'm so glad you raised that. The part of the email that I was discussing was the Chairman Grijalva's note that conducting oil and gas leasing under the current system has significant flaws, both for environmental reasons and fiscal returns. And that's something that we've been working on at the Department of the Interior, at the Bureau of Land Management, and consistent, again, with many of the helpful provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act with the leadership of Chairman Manchin.
Well, I was just confused because his statement, the congressman's statement, came as a criticism of the Secretary of the Interior announcing some additional oil and gas leases. And he criticized that, and you said that you agreed with him. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on inside the department.
No problem. As I said, what I was talking about was his pointing out the challenges with leasing under the current system that required updates. There's a reason that the federal oil and gas program has been identified as high risk for over a decade by the Government Accountability Office, and those were the comments that were the focus of my email.
He said holding more lease sales under today's standards is economically wasteful and environmentally destructive, in response to the Secretary saying that you're going to go forward with some additional fossil fuel leasing. So you agree with that, his statement, you're
I
saying?
agree with the point that we needed to update, and that's what we've been doing. We've been doing it through policy, we've been doing it in our lease sales, and we're doing it in our proposed regulation, and Congress has done that in many aspects of the Inflation Reduction.
And so this is it, Madam Chair. I see I'm over time. So you disagree with the position of your secretary in moving forward with these very limited leasing? You think that was a bad idea? You agree with the congressman that she was wrong to do it?
I don't disagree with the actions of the Secretary of the Interior. I work for the Secretary of the Interior, and we are conducting oil and gas leasing.
Yeah, that's what I found so confusing about your email. I'll ask you some additional questions for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Daines.
Winter's coming to Montana. We're starting to see some snow, starting to see some cooler temperatures. Prescribed burning has begun in our national forests, and I think it's important to continue discussing reform